Hi, friend. Fear. It's a powerful thing. It sells movie tickets, keeps us scrolling, and sometimes it freezes us in our very tracks. But faith, real gutsy faith, now that's what changes history. Now, we're not just talking theories here. We're raiding the ancient archives to meet five incredibly ordinary people who somehow stared down monsters, kings, and even death itself. And guess what? They won. This is about the raw mechanics of courage, the kind you can literally copy and paste into your Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever giant you may be facing this week. All right, picture this with me for just a second. The emperor has just signed an executive order, and it's not good news. It's an order to erase your entire people effective tomorrow. You're young, maybe in your 20s, with zero political pull, and one wrong knock on the palace door could get you speared on sight. Seriously, what do you do in that situation? Most of us would probably run, right? But Esther, she walked in anyway. Her heart pounding, life or death choice became a blueprint for courageous faith that we're still talking about 25 centuries later. Her story isn't just a tale, it's a lesson in risking everything when God calls. Stick around, because in the next few minutes, you're not just going to hear about that playbook. You'll discover that same strategy plus four others that you can use to face your own giants, your personal fiery furnaces, or even just that dreaded Friday email from HR without completely folding under the pressure. Courageous faith. Let's talk about that here today in this edition of Ignite Your Spiritual Growth. Hi, I'm Mark Warren, and welcome back to today's edition of Ignite Your Spiritual Growth from Directions for Living. Esther's story. If you really think about it, it's basically a high-stakes hostage thriller. It's crammed into a royal harem. Now, the villain, Haman, drafts a genocide plotting to annihilate all of the Jews in the Persian Empire. The queen, Esther, is Jewish but has kept her ethnicity a secret. And then there's her uncle Mordecai, who drops the mic with one of the most famous lines in the Bible. We find it in Esther 4:14, where he says to Esther, "And who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this." Talk about pressure. His words were a clear challenge. Your comfort zone is officially canceled. Esther knew the stakes. Approaching the king without an invitation was punishable by death unless he extended his golden scepter. It was a terrifying prospect, one that could cost her her life. But Esther's resolute step, she didn't just panic. She fasted, she prayed, she prepared 3 banquets, and then with a deep breath, she marched into the throne room, fully expecting to die. She made a conscious choice to move forward in faith, trusting that even if she perished, she was doing the right thing. The king, seeing her courage and grace, lifted his scepter. The villain Haman ultimately got hoisted by his own gallows, and an entire nation survived. The takeaway here is profound. Courage. It isn't just a sudden burst of adrenaline. Sometimes it's scheduled. Esther gave herself one sunset to grieve, a dawn to dress, and then she moved. She leaned hard on God's strength, asking for prayer and fasting from her people before she acted. The next time that fear ambushes you, I want you to borrow her timer. 24 hours of prayer, planning, and then decisive action. The clock surprisingly is merciful, making the seemingly impossible feel a little bit more manageable. Now, I want you to imagine this. A scrawny kid, a shepherd boy, shows up to a war, not with a sword, but bringing cheese for his brothers, and somehow he becomes the MVP. That's David. On one side, you've got Goliath, 9 feet of bronze armor and trash talk, defying the armies of Israel for 40 days straight. And on the other side is David, literally 0 feet of armor, but is overflowing with confidence in the Lord. Everyone else is dismayed and greatly afraid, but David, he didn't even flinch. The lesson here is crucial. Before you pick your next fight, take an inventory of your lion and bear moments. David didn't just walk in blindly. He cited his previous wilderness rescues. God delivered me from claws, he declared. He'll handle this oversized bully. His courage wasn't born in that moment. It was cultivated through past experiences of God's protection. Your resume of past wins. Those times that God showed up for you, that's going to be your ammunition pouch. I want you to write them down. Speak them out, and then when the time comes, sprint toward the giant rather than away. You see, David's unwavering trust contrasted sharply with Israel's fear. He knew his strength came not from his body, but from God. Courage, it turns out, is memory plus motion. It's remembering God's faithfulness and then acting on that truth. Now, before we talk about our next amazing story of courageous faith, I have a free gift I want to give to you. A free gift that will help you stop starving your soul. It's called 3 Key Steps to Enhance Your Spiritual Growth. These key steps will encourage your appetite to know God better and understand His exciting relationship with you. They will lead you to a transformed life through a simple yet dynamic way to approach God through His Word. Now, I really want to get this into your hands, so I have put a link in the description below just to make it super easy. What you're going to need to do is to click on that link. Follow the short little directions on how to get that resource, and it will be yours today. I hope you'll grab this free resource, and I pray that it will promote spiritual growth in your life. Okay, now let's get back to today's focus, shall we? Courageous faith. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These young men refused to bow to the golden HR policy of Babylon, a massive golden idol that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected, demanding worship from everyone at the sound of music. The penalty for refusing? A blazing, fiery furnace. Nebuchadnezzar, predictably furious, cranked the thermostat 7 times hotter when he was told of these young men's disobedience. Their statement of faith, however, was pure fire itself. It's recorded for us in Daniel chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and He will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if He does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. These 3 young men, with absolute confidence in God's ability, plus complete surrender to His will, turned the furnace into what can be described as a divine spa treatment. As the king looked into the fiery furnace to witness their demise for challenging him, he was astonished at what he saw. The king cried out in amazement. He said, "Look, I see 4 men loosed and walking about in the midst of the fire without harm, and the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods." Instead of these men perishing in the flames, they walked about within the fire untouched, and not even the smell of smoke clung to them. The real world translation: when you find yourself in a situation where you can't obey both God and corporate culture or societal expectations, choose God. Their story reminds us to stand firm in our beliefs, even when facing severe consequences. The worst case scenario from a faith perspective often still lands you smack dab in the middle of a miracle. Sometimes even with a promotion tacked on, as it did for these guys. Their unwavering faith under the threat of death is a powerful testament to the trusting God's power and his sovereignty. Then there's the story about Abigail. While David's hit squad, 400 strong, marched in a rage toward her foolish husband Nabal, Abigail didn't freeze. Nabal, whose name literally means fool, was a wealthy but harsh and ill-behaved man who had insulted David by refusing to provide provisions. David was so enraged he was ready to wipe out Nabal's entire household. But Abigail, she acted swiftly and wisely. She loaded donkeys with figs, bread, and wine, and without telling Nabal, she rode out to intercept the angry future king. When she met David, she didn't make excuses. She fell on her face before him and called him my lord, owned her husband's idiocy, and talked everybody off the ledge. She appealed to David's faith, destiny, and conscience, turning his wrath to gratitude. The blood feud was averted. David later remembered her as the reason he didn't sin. The moral of her story: sometimes courage doesn't look like a battle cry. It looks more like a gift basket and a well-crafted apology. If conflict terrifies you, remember Abigail. Prepare, intercept, and speak life. Her initiative, wisdom, and humility saved her household and honored God. Wisdom dressed in humility often disarms better than swords ever could. She showed that doing what is right in God's eyes sometimes requires bold action and diplomacy. Now, all of these incredible stories, these powerful examples of human courage, they all point to one ultimate finale: Gethsemane. It's where Jesus, facing unimaginable agony, sweats blood. He asks for the cup, the sufferings of the cross, to pass if possible. But then, with a profound and unwavering surrender, he seals it with, "Yet not as I will, but as you will." This is the anchor pattern, the ultimate template. Every hero we've talked about today, every act of courage and faith, borrows from his template: honest fear, a surrendered will, and then a decisive step forward in obedience. Hebrews 12:2 tells us that Jesus endured the cross for the joy set before him. Translation: courage in its deepest form trades present pain for future eternal joy. Jesus knew exactly what was coming. Yet he moved forward, not with a bravado that denied fear, but with a deep trust in his Father's plan. He didn't avoid the danger. He walked straight into it out of his love for his Father and for us. Your stress, your debt, your diagnosis, name it, hand it over, then take the next obedient step. The empty tomb provides beyond a shadow of a doubt that the exchange rate is absolutely worth it. It's the greatest display of courage in history. Now, if these stories are hitting home, if they're sparking something inside you, I want you to do me a favor. Smash the like button so the algorithm quits hiding courageous content. And hey, Drop a comment below naming the giant that you're geared up to face. Community prayer is real. We'd love to pray for you, and it's always free. So how do we take these ancient blueprints and apply them to our modern lives? How do we build that muscle of courageous faith? It doesn't happen overnight, but it definitely happens. Now, here are some practical steps that you can start to take today. Practical step number 1, micro bravery. Do the small, hard thing. Courage grows like physical strength, gradually. You don't start bench pressing a car. You start small. Make that dentist call you've been dreading, or speak up respectfully in a meeting when you know you should. Repetition will build muscle. Facing smaller fears builds confidence to confront bigger challenges. This is about stepping out in faith, even in the little things, trusting God in uncertainty. Now, number 2, the second step practical that I want to give to you today is memory bank. Memory bank. Keep a God did list. Now, this is going to be your personal ammunition pouch. On your phone, in a journal, or even in your head, keep a running list of every answered prayer, every timely check, every narrow escape, every time that God showed up for you. Read it before you open that scary email, before you walk into that difficult conversation, or just when you're feeling overwhelmed. Remembering God's faithfulness in the past fuels your courage for the present and future. It's about recognizing His character and relying on His promises. Okay, practical tip number 3 is community huddle. Don't go it alone. Esther had Mordecai, David had Jonathan, Daniel had his trio of friends. We are not meant to do this faith journey solo. I want you to pick 2 people who pray, people who will speak truth into your life even when it's uncomfortable. I want you to text them your fear. Let them speak God's truth louder than the anxiety whispers in your ear. Intentional Christian communities provide encouragement, accountability, and training to sustain courage. When we surround ourselves with believers, we sharpen each other, and we are spurred toward courage, not complacency. Tip number 4, pray and fast for guidance. Like Esther, we can actively seek God's strength and guidance when facing difficult situations. Prayer is where we can be honest with God about our fears and doubts, asking Him for the strength to let go and trust Him. Fasting can sharpen our spiritual focus, helping us to hear God's voice more clearly and depend more fully on Him. When you're faced with a decision that feels too big, bring it to God in prayer and fasting, entrusting the outcome to Him. Practical tip number 5, embrace God's sovereignty and love. Courageous faith flourishes when we truly understand that God is in control and that His love for us is unconditional. This understanding empowers us to act boldly, knowing that even if things don't go our way, God's plan is ultimately good. It's about trusting God's will, even when we don't understand the path He's leading us down. Rest in His love, knowing that He cares for us, even in the midst of turmoil, and uses challenges to shape us. Okay, 6th final tip, trade fear for faith. Acknowledge your fears. Don't suppress them. But then consciously choose to trust God's promises instead. The Bible. It is full of verses reminding us not to fear because God is with us. Now, this isn't about denying reality. It's about shifting your reliance from your own limited understanding to God's infinite wisdom and power. When you bring your fear to Jesus in prayer, He can trade it for a peace that surpasses all understanding, building your faith to take that next step. So, courageous faith. It isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear call the shots. It's God reliance, not self-reliance. Esther scheduled bravery. David weaponized memory. Daniel's friends, they rehearsed surrender. Abigail disarmed fury with wisdom. And Jesus, he anchored every single story in joy and ultimate obedience. This week, I challenge you, pick one of these playbooks. Just one. Run it for 7 days and then watch the impossible odds start to backpedal. Remember this, history doesn't remember the comfortable. It remembers the ones who walk into the throne room, the battlefield, or the fiery furnace, not because they weren't afraid, but because they were convinced God was already there. And he's already here for you too. So, what are your thoughts about today's video? I would love it if you take a moment, write down a few comments, your reflections on today's video, put them in the comment section below because I always enjoy hearing from you directly. And lastly, I want to remind you one more time about the free resource that I believe will help you grow in grace with God. There's a link provided in the description below. I want you to click on that link. Get the downloadable resource today. May God bless you. May he strengthen your courageous faith. And thank you so much for joining us here today at Directions for Living. I'll see you again next Tuesday.